Hi, Simon here, GM8NYB, and this is the CR100, continuing on with tuning up the coils in the coil pack. Last video I did the oscillator coils, the 6 oscillator coils here, one for each band, using the slugs in the coil for the low frequency end and the trimmers, when they had trimmers, on the high frequency end. Right, I found on range 4, 5 and 6 they used fixed capacitors select on test for the high frequency end instead of trimmers. It was very awkward to keep soldering and unsoldering capacitors, so on range 4, which I found was, this is on range 4 at the moment, that was the worst one. It was quite way out, so I put a little trimmer in it. I'll show you in a minute. I put a little trimmer on range. I took the fixed capacitors out and put a small trimmer. So now on 5 and 6, the high ends weren't too bad with the capacitors that are in there, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Let's go. Right, that is range 4, which I've put the trimmer on, and I've got the end spot on. I'm not saying the middle bits are any in the right place, but certainly the 1.4 and 4 megs are on. So on range 4 I put the little capacitor on and I set these band limits up there. I found it easier as well to tune up. They used an output meter to peak the coil there. I've actually found it easier to find the null by using the BFO. The BFO I've set to the centre of the frequency of the BFO, and I can null it out, so I'll try and show you what I've done here. Right, this is the side view of the radio. I've got the scope clip here. It's not electrically attached, it's just clipped onto the oscillator top cap there, and I've sent that off to my scope, and you can actually see the frequency. It doesn't really affect the oscillator until it gets to about band 6, so it doesn't pull the oscillator at all. Now, this is the mixer valve, the top cap, which I've attached to capacitor here. Oops. And on top of the capacitor is the lead, this lead here, going off to the signal generator. Got it set to 1.4 megs, and the signal generator, you can see it, so let's move that to, yeah, I think it'll show up, on here, 1.4 megs. Right, and I'm using the fluke again as an output meter. At the minute it's reading quite low, but if I just tune this off, it's no sound out at the moment because the BFO is completely nulled. So if I go either side, it should increase. There's the meter, and I put it back to the 0 beat position. I found it easier to set it up that way than setting up on a high noise, and then I tune it on the other way, it goes up. So there we go. And the same, so for that you set up the coil. RF coil is 1, 2, 3, 4, and as you can see here, I put this little capacitor on. I had this 7 PF capacitor on it, so I put that little trimmer on there. Now the trimmer, this is the coil core for doing the low frequency end, which I've got 1.4. On the high frequency end, I've used this little trimmer. So let's spin this round now. 4, you can see it come off there, up to 4 megs. I mean, it's the thickness of the pointer, so that's about 4 megs there, around about there. Back to the signal gen. I'll have to put that into the frequency. Take this up to 4 megs. There it is there. Whoops, right at 4 megs. That's the null on 4 megs. The BFO is in the centre of its range, and then obviously it goes up the other side. So I'm quite happy with the setting of the 4 megs band edges. 1.4. Right, I've set it back to 1.4 megs there, and I've changed the input from the signal generator to the dipole input. You can see here. Oops. These are the dipole inputs here. This is the output of the speaker. So I've got my signal generator now connected to the dipole input. Signal generator set to, you can see it now. I'm using slightly different to what it says in the book. Again, they're using the BFO to peak up on noise. I found it easier to modulate this with a 1 kilohertz tone. So now at the moment I've got 1.4 megs modulated with 1 kilohertz, very low modulation level. And I'm measuring the oscillator output on the scope. You see the scope there, 1.865, which is 1.4 plus 465 kilohertz is 1.865 or thereabouts. And I'm measuring the output on the meter there. I'm turning up the gain, you see. The oscillator's done. I'm going to start with the input. The input coils on the aerial side, these ones here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no capacitors on these, they use the aerial trimmer. Now the aerial trimmer is set to the midway position. Now unfortunately I had that ganging tool. Now this is where it went a bit wrong. These coil cores are quite tight, and also there's supposed to be it's a threaded brass. Is the screw in it. It's supposed to be flats filed on it, but the flats aren't very wide, so my ganging tool, which was made of an old aerial, didn't work. It sort of twisted up. So I'm going to order some brass rod to try it. But in the meantime, I was doing it with my fingers. Not the best thing, but give you an idea there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start moving this now, and I'll switch that over to the meter. And as I start to, you see the peaking up. I've tuned this up before. I just deliberately detuned it a little. I'm using my fingers here. The ganging tool is what you really need so you can hold that in the right position. So I pick that up. That's about the best I can get there. The next, because we're on the low frequency side, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here is the send RF. Now there you go. As I turn that up, starts to pick up a bit more. Right, that's it. Down. Hopefully get it. And go past the peak, which I think I have. So use a ganging tool would be the best thing instead of fingers. 3.9. And then the mixer. Again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Put my fingers in here. It doesn't really affect it much. And I should be able to pick it up on the mixer there. That's really pick. I'll detune this quite a lot. You may hear the tone coming up. And going down again. So I've gone past the peak. And yeah, about 5.6. What could I do on the camera? Right, okay, so that is the low frequency end. Now I need to change this. As it's easy to hear with the 1 kilohertz modulation on it. Let's take this down to 4 megs. And again, I'll use the scope to make sure I'm on 4 megs. The oscillator is going to run 465 kilohertz higher than the 4 meg. Around 4 megs there, let's see. And on the scope we've got 469, so I'll just pull that back a bit. And that 465, close anyway, I'm not. 465, but it says not bad. Right, change the frequency. Back to 4 megs. There's a tone back, 4 megs. We've got about 6.7 millivolts. I'm just going to back off the HF gain just not to overload the stages. Now then, on the high frequency ends, use the capacitors across the coils. None on this, it's a fixed variable. Well, not fixed variable, it's set variable, the aerial trimmer. So this is the trimmer for the first RF, set RF stage. Get that in there. I'll look at the reading. As I start to trim this in, goes up then down again, so obviously past the peak. Basically that's what you need to do on all of them. Once you've set it properly, then you seal it. And just put the highest. And then this is number 4 on the mixer. And I did tune this deliberately to show on the video. So there we go. Coming up, up, past. Just needs a little movement there. Well, that is basically it. So I've done 1, 2 and 3, and that is now number 4. Tuned up the band edges. 5 and 6, I haven't done those yet. 5 is not too bad. Number 6, the problem I found with number 6 is on the aerial coil here. Let me see that angle. This is screwed all the way out to get the most. I mean, if I screw it in, you lose the output, and that is its far reaches, so I'm not sure why that is. That's on the input. If I transfer the signal to the normal antenna input and not the dipole input, it bypasses this, and I can set them up on here, which I did. But to get any reasonable output, I had to screw this one out here, so I'm not sure what's wrong with that. Looking on the circuit diagram, there's no actual coils, no capacitors attached to that coil pack, internal ones. So maybe I might have to add a little capacity to bring that in. That is on band 6 there. Had to screw it all the way out to get the low frequency end sensitive enough. Anyway, that's it for now. Hopefully it was of some use. I shall wait till I get my new piece of brass rod and make myself another ganging tool. Yeah, make another ganging tool, and then I'll be able to lock these coils up. But not too bad with your fingers. Doesn't really move much. The nuts, as you can see, right, the nuts on here side, put an angle. Those nuts here are quite tight. They don't really rotate on their own. And as you can see, there's a bit of a flat on it, but it's not much of a flat. And that little ganging tool I made wouldn't grip it, so I bought some brass tube, I should say, brass tube with a 3mm diameter hole in it, which I can squash up hopefully, and I'll be able to use that as a ganging tool again with the box spanner over the outside. Well, that's it for now. One other point, not quite it for now. I did read somewhere about when you put the plate on, it moves the oscillator frequency. Well, I'll just show something here. I put that over the. Now, if you look at the frequency there, it doesn't move it much. If we take the plate away, it comes up drops a few hundred hertz or so. Get that steady. Right, that's with the plate on. And we've got 63. And it goes down. So with the plate on, it goes up a couple of kilohertz. Not much. Might not be worth bothering with, but to do it with the base on, it'd be a pain. So just keep putting the plate on and readjusting it. I did hear that they had a plate that had the holes drilled, but it would make it very awkward. But how precise do you need to get it? But it seems to be okay. Tunes up quite nicely. I get the ganging tool, I can lock all these nuts in place. I seal up the trimmers, and hopefully that's it. And one more thing to do after that, and that would be to tune up the 100 hertz filter on the back. I haven't done anything to that yet. Had it apart, cleaned it all up and just put it back together, so there's a procedure for doing that. And after that, it's working on the front panel and the chassis, and of course give it a test. Right, thank you for watching, hope it was useful, and catch you next time.